馬車迎えに来るの迎えに来るのね誰かが私を連れて行くのね白い花の道へ風のふるさとへ連れて行くのね連れて行くのね
Challenge, please make sure it's not a dangerous one.
Don't worry, Diana. I'm merely trying to show that boys aren't the only ones who can accept challenges.
It's time to do it. Yesterday, I convinced my brother that I could jump over a roof. Clever, don't you think?
Did you jump over a roof?
If you're
How did you do that,
you
Ruby?
might have to prove
I could never do it.
Ruby Gillis, if I should dare you, would you accept the challenge?
Yes, Carrie, of course I would. And I promised to do my best. Now, what do you want me to do?
Let me see. Yes, I think that'll do. Ruby, I would like you to climb that tree at least up to the third thick branch.
I'm sure I'll be able to do that. Will you really? Won't the big fat caterpillars bother you? You mean real caterpillars? Is that true, Diana?
Yes, Ruby, I've seen them.
If that's the case...
Aha! So you're trying to get out of the dare because you are scared of caterpillars, are you?
You've lost, Ruby. No, I'll do it, even if there are caterpillars. I'm not scared.
You don't have to do it, Ruby.
It's not that bad.
About a week had passed since Anne went to tea at Mrs. Allen's. The children heard the news that Avonlea would be getting a new teacher. For the first time, they'd be getting a lady teacher. To discuss this news, Diana invited her classmates for tea and cakes. The game the girls were playing was called Daring and was all the rage at the time.
Ruby Gillis, I, Carrie Sloane, declare that you successfully completed the dare. Now get down from there before I have to save the caterpillars from you.
This dare was really not so difficult at all.
So the girls let Josie Pye choose the next challenge. Josie decided that Jane Andrews should hop 5 times around the field on one leg without stopping or letting the other foot touch the ground. Jane tried her best to meet the challenge, but after the 3rd round, she gave up.
I can't go on.
Well, Jane, how does it feel to know that you couldn't even finish such an easy dare? Come here and admit to me that you're a failure.
Now, I am asking you, Josie Pye, are you willing to accept my dare?
Of course, Anne Shirley. It would give me great pleasure to do it.
Now listen carefully, Josie Pye. I'd like you to walk on the fence from where you are right up to where I am.
Now that was very easy. Anne, would you admit that we are even now?
Don't carry on like that. It really isn't that difficult to balance yourself on a garden fence. I know of a girl who walked along the ridged piece of a roof in Morrisville.
You're lying. I don't believe that anybody would be able to do that. And definitely not someone like Anne Shirley.
Don't be so sure of that.
Well, then I dare you to do it. Get onto the roof of Mr. Barry's house and walk along the ridge piece. It would have been better for you to admit that we were even. Do you accept the dare or not?
Don't do it, Anne.
You can't do it.
All right, Josie Pye. I accept your dare and I'll show you that I'm capable of doing it. For goodness sake, Anne, please don't do it. If you fall, you might be killed.
Anne, it doesn't matter what Josie might think of you.
Jane's right. It's not fun anymore.
I'm sorry, but I have to. To me, this is an important matter of honour.
Don't be so silly, Anne.
Don't say that. Do you think the brave knight who fights a duel to protect his honour could be called silly? Now, if anything should happen to me, I'd like you to have my pearl bead ring.
Anne! This is all your fault, Josie Pye.
Yes, and what about it? And why are you getting so excited? It's just a dare, and Anne won't do it. She's just a big show-off.
Anne, don't.
Don't worry, I'm not scared.
Yes, Anne. I know you're not scared.
I must do it. I can do it. It's easy. I can do it. It's easy. Even a small child can do it.
Anne, please wake up.
Ruby, what happened, dear?
Anne!
She's so quiet, maybe she's dead. Anne, please say something, say anything. If you are dead, couldn't you just say so? Anne, you're alive.
Diana.
Anne.
Well, Diana, it seems I wasn't killed, but at least I know that my honour is still in place.
Please, Anne, tell us if you have any pain.
Good heavens, Anne, what happened here? Anne, did you hurt yourself?
My uncle!
Diana, please find your father and tell him to come quickly.
Yes.
Father! Father!
But it's my Anne. Oh, my. Mr. Barry, what happened to her? What's the matter? Is she ill? No, she had an accident.
It's not that bad, Marilla. I tried to walk on the ridge piece of Mr. Barry's roof, but unfortunately I lost my balance and fell.
What, from the roof?
Marilla, I could easily have broken my neck. Instead, I sprained my ankle. So please, let's just look on the bright side.
Anne, I might have known you'd go and do something of the sort when I let you go to that party. Mr. Barry, would you please bring her into the house? I'll send Matthew to fetch the doctor. Please hurry. The poor child has gone and fainted again.
Matthew was summoned from the field, and he left at once to fetch the doctor from Carmody. He was worried about Anne and felt very sorry for her. While the doctor was examining Anne, he stood waiting at the foot of the stairs. He was hoping that the injury wasn't serious, but the doctor's examination showed that Anne had in fact broken her ankle. It would take at least 6 to 7 weeks for the ankle to heal completely. Marilla stayed with Anne throughout the night. thinking about how, out of sheer fright, she dropped the apples when she rushed over to meet Mr. Barry with Anne in his arms. At that moment, she realized just how much Anne meant to her. She remembered the anxiety she'd felt when she saw Anne in Mr. Barry's arms. Marilla knew then that she loved Anne, and that her life would be different from then on.
Marilla?
Oh, Anne, you're awake.
Marilla, do you feel sorry for me because I fell and broke my ankle?
It was your own fault, Anne.
And that's just why you should feel sorry for me, Marilla. Because the thought that it's all my own fault is what makes it so hard. If only I could blame the whole affair on somebody else instead of myself, it would make me feel so much better. What would you have done if you had been dared by someone to walk on a ridge piece, Marilla?
Might have stayed firmly on good solid ground and let the other girls dare as much as they liked. Such absurdity.
I wish I had your strength of mind, Marilla. You always know exactly what to do. I just felt I couldn't bear Josie Pye's scorn if I didn't do it. She would have crowed over me forever.
Oh, you mean just because of that girl Josie Pye you endangered your own life?
Yes, but Marilla, I think I've been punished so much that you needn't be very cross with me. I used to think that it was so romantic for a girl to faint, but it wasn't as nice as I had imagined. And when the doctor was setting my ankle, he hurt me so much I thought I'd faint again. I won't be able to move around for 6 or 7 weeks, which means that I won't be able to meet the new teacher when she comes to school for the first time. When I see her for the first time, she won't be new anymore, and she will know everyone. I don't deserve that. And all the other children will be ahead of me in class. And all that just because of a stupid accident. But I suppose I'll have to do my best to accept the situation as it is. And if you're not too cross with me, it'll make me feel a whole lot better.
But Anne, I'm not cross with you. You're just an unfortunate little girl, and I understand that. And I'm grateful that you didn't damage anything more than your ankle. It could have been much worse. Now, Anne, please eat something so you can get your strength back.
Anne had to spend the whole of the summer holidays in bed. This was very difficult for her, since Prince Edward Island had a particularly beautiful summer that year. Anne spent a lot of time trying to imagine what the new teacher looked like. This she found quite difficult, since none of the children of Avonlea had ever seen a lady teacher. Anne could only see someone resembling their Mr. Phillips. She secretly envied the other girls who could go to school and meet the new teacher.
Marilla, today is the first day of September, the day the new teacher arrives. I would love to know what she's going to say to the school. Oh, I can't wait for Diana to come and tell me. I've been lying here all morning trying to imagine what a lady teacher would actually look like. If she has red hair, I won't be able to control myself. I wouldn't be able to bear a teacher with red hair. I would rather break another ankle. Look out, world, here comes Aunt
Anne,
Shirley.
please be careful. You know what might happen if you misbehave.
Yes, of course. Goodbye, Marilla. I'll see you tonight.
Don't run so fast. You might fall and hurt yourself.
I won't fall. Ah!
Marilla remembered that it was actually this day, a year ago, that Anne went to school for the first time.
Anne, Diana is here to visit you. Go up to her, Diana. You know where her room is.
Thank you, Mrs. Cuthbert. May I come in, Anne? Yes, of course. I've been waiting for you. Quick, tell me about Miss Daisy. First, tell me how you are. So, how are you? Oh, as bad as it could be for anyone who has missed the most important day of their life. Yes, it must be terrible, but I'll visit you every day. Thank you, that's very kind. Now, please tell me about the new teacher before I burst. Is she a Scarecrow?
No, she's young and very nice.
I'm glad, but nice doesn't describe her well enough. Now tell me, what colour hair does she have?
She has dark blonde hair.
And the colour of her eyes?
Light blue. She has lovely eyes.
Really? Now tell me what kind of dress she wore.
It was very special. It had large puffy sleeves. Nobody in Avonlea has anything like it. It's a dream dress.
I can imagine that. And what do you think of her?
I think she's wonderful. She's so full of fun. She laughs a lot and she doesn't get cross at all.
Oh, it's so long before I'll be able to see her.
Don't feel bad, Anne. After school I went to her and told her all about you. I said Miss Stacy, my best friend Anne Shirley, had a bad accident and that's why she couldn't come to school.
And what did you say about that?
She sent her regards and said you must get better soon. Wasn't that kind?
So she knows about my broken ankle.
Anne Shirley, prepare yourself for a surprise.
I really don't feel like going. It's got nothing to do with me because it wasn't my fault.
Why didn't you just stay at home? Why did you come with us? You really are unbelievably hard-headed, Josie.
It was you who dared Anne to do it, so it must be your fault.
That's what you say. But how was I supposed to know that she would do it? It's all Anne's fault. And if she admits it, I'll come with you.
You know, Josie, the last time I spoke to Anne, she told me she was convinced that the whole thing was her fault. And I'm sure she'd tell you the same if you would give her a chance. I've been wondering about how Mrs. Allen and Miss Stacy...
Hello?
How's the patient today?
Ruby Jane Carey.
How are you feeling, Anne?
Tilly, you too?
I had to see how you were.
Josie, I want you to know I'm very pleased that you came.
And Shirley, I've been thinking about this all day.
Oh, the whole thing's been forgotten.
Listen, Josie, you can be sure that I don't bear any grudge against you. What do you say? Shouldn't we shake hands and forget everything?
I'm not sure what it is you want to forget, Anne.
Oh, stop it. Now give Anne your hand.
I forgive you, Josie.
There's nothing to forgive, Anne.
Give me strength.
Summer was slowly coming to an end. It was harvest time at Green Gables, and Matthew was working the fields from early morning till late at night. He had very little time to visit Anne, but he thought about her constantly. To Marilla, looking after Anne was an added responsibility. She had to rush up and down the stairs to take things to her, but she never complained. She didn't mind because she enjoyed looking after her. It was rather strange, but Matthew, who had never enjoyed female company, volunteered to go to Avonlea to pick up a special visitor to Green Gables.
She sounds like a bright little girl.
He found the journey quite a strain and very boring, and was relieved when eventually they arrived at Green Gables, and he was able to get away from this annoying female. Matthew didn't particularly like women in general, and found those who did the work that men were supposed to do even more unacceptable.
Thank you so much for your help, Mr. Cuthbert.
Yes, you're welcome.
Come in.
Good day, Mrs. Cuthbert. You are Mrs. Cuthbert, are you not? I'm Miss Stacy, the new teacher in Avonlea.
Oh, are you really Miss Stacy?
Yes, I am. Most people are surprised when they see me for the first time. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm here to visit Anne. Please, Mrs. Cuthbert, don't look at me as if I had 7 heads.
Marilla, I've been thinking about my patchwork quilt. It feels as if I've been in bed for 3 years, and for all this time I've been working on this quilt day after day, even though I don't really like sewing very much. Marilla, I wish you would finish this quilt for me so that I could be happy again.
Hello there, my dear Anne Shirley. I am...
Miss Muriel Stacy.
Yes, I am. But how did you know that? Are you clairvoyant?
Just like Lady Cordelia.
Who?
Thank you for coming, Miss Stacy. I'm very well, except for my ankle, of course.
You poor child. Aren't you bored? Do you stay in bed all the time?
Yes, most of the time.
Well...
Oh,
A person can have a wonderful conversation sitting in a windowsill. There. Isn't that better? We sang at school today.
really? Lovely.
I'll bring the song next time I come to visit.
You could have told me about it, Matthew. I didn't know she was coming to visit.
I did it for Anne. You know how anxious she was to meet the new teacher.
Yes, but I could have baked a cake if I'd known she was coming. It's important to make a good impression. She must think we're bad hosts and very ungrateful.
The farmer sent his son to cut the wheat, but he didn't cut the wheat and stayed away from home. So the farmer sent his loyal dog.
To go and bite the farmer's lazy son.
But the dog didn't bite the son, and the son didn't cut the wheat. And the son and the dog stayed away from home. So the farmer sent his whip to strike the dog. But the whip didn't strike the dog. The dog didn't bite the son, and they all stayed away from home. So the farmer sent some fire to burn the lazy whip. But the fire didn't burn the whip. The whip didn't strike the dog. The dog didn't bite the son, and they all stayed away from home. So the farmer went into his fields and cut the wheat himself.
Anne was so inspired by Miss Stacy that she decided to get well as soon as possible so that she could get back to school. She wanted to prove to the doctor on his next visit that she was completely fit and well.
Well done, Anne. I believe your ankle is well enough for you to try and take a few steps, but please be careful and don't overdo it.
Marilla, I can walk again.
That night, Anne insisted on having supper with Marilla and Matthew in the kitchen.
I really think I should have
She
some.
wanted to show Matthew that she could walk again, but this wasn't altogether true. Her leg was still very weak and every step was painful. Matthew had to help her.
It makes a world of difference, believe me. It's much better reading at the table than in bed. That's probably why a broken ankle is so utterly unromantic, don't you think? It's difficult to do anything with a broken ankle. No matter how many wonderful and exciting ideas you could come up with, you still can't do a thing. But there's a bright side to being ill in bed. A person can find out how many friends you have. You can find out so much about who they really are and what they really think. For instance, Josie Pye is a strange person. I offered her all my friendship, but all she wants me to do is admit that I am to blame. If I had been killed, she would have carried a dark burden of remorse for the rest of her life. Diana is really a lovely and loyal friend. She came over every day to tell me what happened at school, or simply to cheer me up. Superintendent Bell also came to see me. I couldn't believe it. He really is a much nicer person than I thought. He showed me where he broke his ankle when he was a little boy. He was quite jolly. And Mrs. Allen is such a delightful person. I believe she really cares for me. She never told me it was my fault, and said I should use the experience to make myself a better person. During one of my other visits, the person said, "Anne Shirley, it's not your fault, but use the experience to be a better person." It was Mrs. Lindy.
Anne
She
Shirley,
kept
you
repeating
should
it,
use
but the
this
way she
experience to
said
make
it,
yourself a
wagging her
better
finger
person.
and pulling faces, made me believe she didn't mean it. I sometimes get the impression that Mrs. Lindy thinks I'm rather a hopeless person.
One thing is very clear, and I'm not sure whether I should be relieved or not. Your accident has changed many things in your life except one thing. You're still a chatterbox.
Yes, your talking is better than your walking.
That's true.
And how?
In the days that followed, Anne waited in vain for her, but Diana didn't come to visit. Anne was very worried about her friend. She feared that something might have happened to her. But the reason for Diana's not visiting is a story for another day.
走っても終わらない花の波、湖は遠く、燃える雲はもっと遠く。夢みたいに 緩やかな丘を縫って駆けてくる馬車迎えに来るの迎えに来るのね誰かが私を連れて行くのね白い花の道へ風のふるさとへ連れて行くのね連れて行くのね
Anne could not go to school. She had to stay at home for 7 tedious weeks while her ankle healed. Although she had many visitors, she was beginning to regret having accepted Josie Pye's dare to walk the ridge piece of Mrs. Barry's kitchen roof.
Is anything the matter, Anne? When are you coming down? Matthew and I are waiting for you.
I'm sorry. I have so much to think about.
Is that the real reason, or aren't you feeling well? Is your leg hurting?
Diana didn't visit me this afternoon either, Marilla. It's been 4 days now. You know, she visited me regularly after school and never skipped even one day, but all of a sudden she just hasn't turned up. There must be a reason for her behavior.
Something must be preventing her. Don't worry too much, Anne. I'm sure she'll visit you tomorrow.
I don't think so. I'm sure she doesn't like me anymore and has another friend.
Anne, please don't fret about things you only suspect. Come downstairs. It isn't healthy to sit and brood alone in your room.
And to think she'd promised to be a true friend forever and ever. How could she forget so easily? I'm sorry. I just won't be able to eat anything.
If that's what you want. Apparently nobody feels like coming to supper on time.
I'm sorry, but your friend Mrs. Rachel Lindy met me in the lane. She told me about Diana.
What did she say? Has something happened to Diana?
I'll go over to Orchard Slope myself. Diana won't be able to avoid me and she'll have to tell me to my face why she doesn't want to visit me.
Matthew, I'm relying on you. Anne must not be told.
And why not?
Do you want to tell her that Diana is in Charlottetown and that she's ill? You know what her reaction would be. She'd be beside herself with anxiety. She wouldn't be able to think about anything else.
I knew it was something terrible.
Why on earth did Diana leave for Charlottetown without first telling Anne she was going? I find it rather strange, don't you?
How should I know? She probably didn't have time to tell her. Far more important is what to tell Anne. We'll have to tell her something, you know. Oh! Oh! Anne! Anne!
Diana, I'm so ashamed of myself. How could I have believed you didn't want to visit me? I even thought you had a new best friend. If it weren't so tragic, it might be funny. I have to lie in bed here, and you are ill in Charlottetown. I can't visit you, and you can't visit me.
shared a true and most enduring love, as sure as moon and stars to shine above. Devoted friends, we swore to love though death us part with all our hearts. But you are gone now, I feel so alone.
I can't bear the anxiety.
If you carry on like this, you'll be no help to yourself or Diana. Why don't you hop over to Mrs. Barry and inquire about her?
Mrs. Barry might not have had word yet, seeing Diana so far away. Marilla, won't you go to Orchard Slope and ask about Diana? Please, Marilla, please go in my place. I can't stand it another second.
Calm down, Anne. I can understand that you're worried about your little friend, but you're exaggerating again. If you sit here worrying and fretting about her condition, you could make yourself ill. How do you know Diana's seriously ill? She might only have a head cold and a little fever.
Dear Diana, do you remember the first day we met? I solemnly swear to be faithful to my best friend Diana Barry as long as the sun and moon shall endure. Now you repeat it and put my name in it. I solemnly swear to be faithful to my best friend Anne Shirley as long as the sun and moon shall endure. Do you remember when we solemnly promised to be faithful to one another forever and ever? It was so beautiful and romantic. I shall never forget that moment as long as I live. I had never had a real best friend before. All my friends lived in my imagination. One of them was Cathy Morris. I truly loved Cathy, but she was only my reflection in the glass door of the bookcase. And do you remember when we discovered our little ring of white birch trees and called it Idlewild? Wasn't that a romantic afternoon? How pretty! Everything is pink. The clouds, the sky, even the trees. And when we were not allowed to see each other, do you remember? Diana, would you give me a lock of your jet-black tresses imparting to treasure forevermore? Have you got anything to cut? I've got my patchwork scissors in my apron pocket, fortunately. Just hold still, Diana. sew it in a little bag and wear it around my neck forever. Fare thee well, my beloved friend. My heart will ever be faithful to thee. Don't despair, Diana. We shall see one another again someday.
Anne, come down, please. Dinner's on the table. I can call as often as I wish. You just never answer. Have you lost your hearing? Whatever is the matter, Anne? Oh. Anne can be such a strange child. It's perplexing. After dinner, I'm going to see Mrs. Barry and inquire about Diana. I want this household to return to normal.
Yes, do that.
Mrs. Barry! Mrs. Barry! Anybody home? Mrs. Barry? Anne, I want you to promise me you'll eat your food before it gets cold. It's such a waste of good food.
Unfortunately, I don't feel able to force food down my throat, Marilla.
I think you ought to try your best to eat something, or do you want to be even thinner?
The worry about Diana's made me lose weight already. I'm going to sit right here until I know what has happened to her.
All right, suit yourself. Then I'll just have to sit on your bed and wait until you've finished your supper.
There, midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core.
What a beautiful poem. It gives me goose flesh. I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey. I hear it in the deep heart's core. Yes?
You are supposed to find solutions to the sums I gave you. You shouldn't have been adding numbers. No, spelling isn't exactly your strong point. And all your sums are wrong too. Have a look at this, children. Not one is correct. And Shirley will have to work hard to catch up.
Please don't let it bother you, Anne. He treats everybody like this. You stood by me right from my very first day at school, Diana. You always supported me. Everyone knew you were my best friend.
Alas, my love, you do me wrong to cast me off discourteously. For I have loved you so long, delighting in your company. Green sleeves was all my joy, and oh, green sleeves was my delight. Green sleeves was my heart of gold, I knew but my lady green sleeves. Alas, my love, you do me wrong to cast me off. Green sleeves was all my joy, and oh, green sleeves was my delight. Green sleeves was my heart of gold, and who but my lady green?
Goodbye, Diana. Goodbye, Anne. I'll see you tomorrow. I can't wait. Unfortunately, not everyone was as kind to me as you were, Diana.
Carrot Head, Carrot Head.
You hateful boy! How dare you!
Huh?
I hate you! Oh, my goodness. Oh, how could you ignore Gilbert's apology, Anne? I shall never forgive that hateful Gilbert Blythe. You mustn't mind Gilbert's making fun of your hair. He makes fun of all the girls. He laughs at mine because it's so black. Often. Constantly. It's true. Honestly, it is. Gilbert's just a natural tease. He's called me a crow a dozen times. It's annoying, but also quite funny. And carrots isn't so bad. You often gave me good advice, which I didn't always follow. My conscience tells me I haven't been all the best friend should be, but I promised I'll try to improve. I'm not sure I can improve, though, because I seem to make so many mistakes. But one encouraging thing is that I never make the same mistake twice. There must be a limit to the mistakes one person can make. And when I get to the end of them, I'll be through with him.
You were late, Anne Shirley. And what did you do to your hair? You look absolutely unkempt. I noticed that you entered the schoolhouse with the boys and not with the girls. Since you seem so fond of the boys' company, we shall indulge your taste for it. You can sit next to Gilbert Blythe for the rest of the year.
That's awful. Mean. Why are you taking all these things home, Anne? Because I'm not coming back to school ever again, Diana. Oh, Anne! Anne, do you really think Marilla will let you stay at home? She'll have to. I'm not going to school. While that man is the teacher. Oh, Anne, I do think you're mean. What shall I do? Mr. Phillips will make me sit with that horrid Gertie Pye because she's sitting alone. Do come back, please, Anne. I'd do almost anything in the world for you, Diana. I'd let myself be torn limb from limb if it would do any good. But I can't do this. So please don't ask for it. You tear at my very soul. I know you feel insulted, but just think of all the fun you'll miss. You visited me after school every day and told me what was happening. You brought me the lessons and homework and saw to it that I didn't lose touch. Anne, just imagine, Charlie Sloane was kept after school. And how did I repay you? I invited you to tea and then sent you home in a disgraceful condition. Raspberry cordial. I love raspberry cordial. I know, Diana. Please help yourself. Take as much as you want. This is the nicest cordial I've ever drunk. I'm awfully dizzy. Oops. Why, Diana? What's the matter? I'm awfully sick. I must go right home. Must go now, Anne. I feel queer. There goes me, Anne. La, 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 la. Oops. Your mother was very angry with me. With good reason. Because you were drunk and she believed that I had done it on purpose. How could I have known that the raspberry cordial you drank was homemade currant wine? But I was able to make amends when I could help Minnie May when she had croup. Come on, Minnie May. Be a good girl and swallow the medicine. Please, Minnie May. The medicine will help you. Open your mouth, Minnie May. Listen to Anne. When will the doctor be here?
You saved the baby's life, young lady.
Oh. You're going to be all right, Minnie May. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, Anne. I'm so glad after all that Mrs. Hammond had 3 pairs of twins. If she hadn't, I might not have known how to help Minnie May. If your mother hadn't forgiven me, oh Diana, if she hadn't allowed you to play with me anymore, my life would have been covered with a black cloud forever and ever. Oh, I can't bear the terrible thought. What's to become of me if you never return from Charlottetown, if I never see you again? Oh! Troubling Lady Cordelia? It's impossible! Diana, where have you come from?
From Charlottetown, where we visited Aunt Josephine. We had news she was poorly and decided to go to Charlottetown to nurse her. Fortunately, she recovered pretty soon, and we stayed only a few days.
I nearly died of anxiety. I didn't know what had happened to you. If you had come one day later, I might not have been among the living anymore.
And I'm glad I'm back. Anne, your ankle must be better. You can walk without holding on to anything.
I never even noticed.
How wonderful, Anne. You're fine now.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Please don't cry again. If you do, I'll start crying too. Please, Anne.
Diana came back in the nick of time. I was beginning to despair of ever hearing Anne laugh again.
Yeah, so was I.
Anne was ready to go back to school in October. In the new teacher, Miss Stacy, she found another true and helpful friend. Anne blossomed like a flower under her wholesome influence and carried home glowing accounts of school life. But more about that next time.
走っても終わらない花の波湖は遠く燃える雲はもっと遠く夢みたいに の音緩やかな丘を縫って駆けてくる馬車迎えに来るの迎えに来るのね誰かが私を連れて行くのね白い花の道へ風のふるさとへ連れて行くのね連れて行くのね
Does your ankle hurt?
A bit, especially when I run. It's not quite strong yet.
You must be more careful then.
I'll try not to run.
I'm glad you're up and about.
So am I.
It was October before Anne's ankle had healed and she was ready to go back to school. Prince Edward Island was enjoying a glorious red and gold autumn. Anne was glad to go to school because she'd heard such exciting things about the new teacher, Miss Stacy.
Oh, Diana, isn't it glorious? I have the feeling that everything is welcoming me. The trees, the fields, and even the birds. They're all happy to have me back. Diana, sometimes life is simply splendid.
It must seem good after you've been cooped up inside the house for so long. There they are.
Anne, how are you? You've been away so long.
Hello, Anne.
You still
Hello.
run as fast as ever?
I think so.
And is your leg all right?
Yes, thank you, Charlie. It's fine.
We're happy you're back at school, Anne. We really missed you, you know.
Oh, really? That's very sweet of you. I missed you all, too.
That's Miss Stacy playing ball with the boys.
Miss Stacy always wins. Nobody beats her.
Show him, Miss Stacy! The boys have all tried to beat her, but they can't. It's only Gil... Oh, he's the only one who's ever managed it.
Look out!
Well, that's more than enough for today.
That's fine, Miss Stacy, but you better watch out tomorrow.
Oh, I will.
Good morning, Miss Stacy. I'm much better.
Oh, good morning, Anne. Did you walk all the way?
Yes, Miss Stacy.
Of course, we all have to take on challenges sometimes, or else our lives would be very dull. But if we do it with the wrong motive, because we imagine our honour to be at stake, we mustn't be surprised if the outcome is not quite satisfactory. Anne Shirley experienced just that. She broke her ankle.
The reason for this painful experience was a game, and this new game is called Daring. What I don't like about the game is that it has no rules, and that is precisely why it can be dangerous. That is why I propose the following rule. When one of the players refuses to accept a dare, he only loses a point if the challenger can prove that he can do it himself. That ought to put paid to any more silly and dangerous dares. Why do you suppose all games have rules? We would not be able to play any sport without rules. All right, let's start today's lesson. I want everybody who knows the answers to the following questions to speak up together. Can you tell me to which country this flag belongs?
The flag of Great Britain, the British flag.
Correct. And what about this flag?
The flag of France, the French flag.
Every country in the world has its own flag. But not only countries have flags, as you know, every province of Canada has its own flag. And I've asked myself why our school doesn't have a flag. I think it would be grand if Avonlea School had its very own flag. A flag that would be typical of Avonlea School. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't see this exhibition of Avonlea School.
I bet we're going to make our own flag.
Please take out your coloured pencils and paper and start designing a flag for the school. We'll hoist our flag during sports meetings and other school activities. It will give us a sense of belonging and pride in our school. The flag must represent something typical of our school. Think carefully about the task I've set you before you start drawing. Don't just draw any old thing that comes to mind.
Calm down, Anne. You're behaving as if you'd never had any problem with that ankle.
Oh, Marilla, Miss Stacy is marvellous. I love her with my whole heart. She's so ladylike and she had such a sweet voice. When she pronounces my name, I feel instinctively that she's spelling it with an E.
Oh, really?
Of course I don't admire her only because she pronounces the E of Anne. She's good at everything she does.
What's that scroll of paper you're carrying?
Oh, this. It's my flag. There.
If you hadn't told me, I would never ever have guessed it was a flag, Anne.
Well, I wasn't very successful. We were asked to design a flag for the school, and I suppose I put a bit too much on mine. Miss Stacy chose only 3 of all the designs the children made. Every pupil in Avonlea School did a drawing. Unfortunately, my flag wasn't in the running. Just imagine, Marilla, Norman Campbell was one of the 3 finalists.
What a lovely surprise to find such talented artists in the Avonlea School.
I thought Norman Campbell's flag was the best. It was so unexpected. Norman had never been given any praise. He is always very quiet in class and seems to daydream most of the time. Mr. Phillips used to scold him every day.
This is an excellent design, Norman. We are all very proud of you.
It was the first time Norman had ever had any praise at school, the very first time. When I grow up, I would also like to be as fair and impartial as Miss Stacy. She doesn't look for mistakes as Mr. Phillips used to. She tries to find out what we can do. She really wants to discover our talents.
That sounds encouraging.
Yes, it is. Do you know, Marilla? Although I wasn't very successful with my idea for the school flag, Miss Stacy will think much better of me tomorrow.
Oh, and why should she do that then?
Because of the homework she gave us. It's a composition, and I love writing compositions. How the writer pictures her future. Doesn't it sound grand?
It does. I'm sure you'll have no trouble with it.
No, I'll have to start writing immediately. My head is so full of ideas. I think it might explode.
Would you mind rinsing your milk bottle before you explode?
Oh. Anne Shirley, this composition must be sensational. Miss Stacy must be very impressed with your extraordinary abilities.
Anne, come down or your soup will be cold. And how is your composition coming along?
Not at all. I couldn't write one single sentence.
Your confidence seems to have evaporated pretty quickly. Why don't you simply write down whatever enters your head?
I can't write down such a confused muddle of thoughts. I must try to get my thoughts into some kind of order first. But I can't. There are simply too many ideas floating about. When I consider my looks and my behaviour, I'm almost sure I won't find a minister who'll want to marry me, but one must face facts. It would be far better for a girl with my looks to think about a career. There's nothing else to be done. I decided today that I would actually quite like to be a teacher when I grow up. But the Avonlea school doesn't prepare one for that, of course, and I suppose one has to be much more intelligent than I am.
But Anne, didn't you tell me that both your parents were teachers?
Yes, that's the reason why I thought that I might become a teacher too. My mother was probably not as exceptionally beautiful as Miss Stacy, but I'm sure she was equally dedicated as a teacher. On the other hand, I sometimes think that being a teacher is something far too ordinary for me. I would dearly love to be a remarkable person. I could train as a nurse and go to the battlefield with the Red Cross as a messenger of mercy to the poor wounded soldiers. Or I could become a foreign missionary and go off to darkest Africa. That would be very romantic. But of course one would have to be naturally good to be a foreign missionary, and that would be a stumbling block for me. How could anyone with red hair ever be naturally good?
There you have your composition. Just put down on paper everything you've told us. Miss Stacy wants to know what you think and how you feel.
Huh?
She'll understand, Anne. You say Miss Stacy is a good teacher. Well, now, if she is, she'll understand perfectly.
Are you sure? Yes, of course, you're right. Thank you. Now my thoughts don't seem so muddled anymore.
Eat your food while you get them in order then, child.
Yes, I even have an appetite now. I have often thought I would like to be a teacher someday, but I'm not quite sure whether it is the right choice for me. Because I also dream of achieving something remarkable, as a missionary, for instance.
Miss Stacy was impressed with the composition, and this increased Anne's adoration of the teacher. But Anne was not alone in her admiration. Miss Stacy was a bright, sympathetic young woman with a happy gift of winning and holding the affections of her pupils and bringing out the best that was in them mentally and morally. She opened their eyes to the beauty of nature, and they didn't look on plants and animals as something to be taken for granted. Even singing suddenly became fun as they began to comprehend the meaning of the songs they learnt.
As you know, Christmas is fast approaching, and I have an idea for a project that you might all enjoy. How would you like to prepare a Christmas concert that we could hold in the Avonlea Hall on Christmas night?
We'd love it.
I'm glad all of you are so enthusiastic about the planned concert for a very special reason. I thought we could use the proceeds of the Christmas concert to help pay for our own school flag. I've already had a meeting with the trustees of the school and told them about the school flag, and I assured them that the pupils of Avonlea School would be able to raise the necessary funds with a concert.
It's too sublime for words. I've always wanted to perform on stage. But what are we going to do? We haven't prepared anything.
When the time comes, you will be prepared. We'll present Avonlea with a concert they'll never forget.
Well, you can't sing it all.
How are you going to manage a concert? You'll need costumes, decorations, and lots of other things.
We're making most of it ourselves. Miss Daisy says every pupil of Avonlea School will participate in the concert. Some will act or recite poems, while others will play instruments and sing. Miss Daisy says we'll even write our own dialogues. We're having 2 dialogues. The Society for the Suppression of Gossip, and a wonderful piece called The Fairy Queen. And a tableau, too.
Well, now, and what's that?
It's something like a living picture. And we're going to represent faith, hope and charity.
Oh, that sounds rather difficult to me.
Oh, it is. We're not allowed to speak at all, Matthew. We have to be silent and motionless. But Miss Stacy is such a wonderful teacher. I just know I'll be able to do anything she shows me. People will be talking about this concert for the next 100 years or so. Oh, I promised to meet Diana. She'll be waiting. I do envy you, Diana. I'm sure you will be chosen to sing a solo.
Oh, Anne, nothing's been decided yet, and I bet you'll be chosen to recite a poem or two.
I have to confess something. I do just about anything to play the role of the Fairy Queen. I'd even jump into this icy cold water, and I hate cold water. Why are you laughing?
You're being silly. You know you don't even look like a fairy queen.
Poor me, I never thought my best friend would insult me so cruelly.
I didn't mean it as an insult, Anne.
It's because of my red hair.
I've never seen or heard about a red-haired fairy queen.
That may be, but that doesn't mean I can't hope. I will never ever believe that there are no red-haired fairy queens anywhere in the world, Diana. Because that would mean all red-haired girls would be left without any hope at all. Oh, why was I afflicted with red hair?
After much thought, I have decided who to cast in the roles in these two pieces. We shall begin with the role of the Fairy Queen, who will be played by one of the older girls. I am sure you're all very anxious to know who that'll be. Jane Andrews will play the role of the Fairy Queen. Jane Andrews, would you stand, please?
Oh, yes, of course, Miss Stacy.
The Queen has 3 maids of honour in her court. Tilly Boulter, Josie Pye, and Anne Shirley. Josie, what's the matter, dear? There's no need to be sulky or disappointed, Josie. All roles are equally important in the theatre. I'm relying on every one of you. When we start rehearsing, you'll soon find that your role is just as enjoyable as that of anyone else's. Whatever we do, on stage or backstage, it's important, and we must all do our level best to make our concert a success.
I have only 3 lines. I hope I'll be able to remember them. I have 3 lines too. You have the biggest role, Jane, and you'll have to learn quite a lot by heart.
Yes, I know, Diana, but I don't mind. I'm glad I got the role, and I'll really work hard at it.
The Fairy Queen isn't such a wonderful role, Jane. She mostly just stands around on stage doing nothing, so stop feeling smug about it.
Then you must be quite grateful Miss Stacy didn't pick you for the role, Josie.
She's lucky. Just think how ridiculous a fat fairy queen would be.
That isn't funny, and I still think a red-haired fairy is much more ridiculous than a fat one.
Let's stop arguing. I'm sure there are many kinds of fairies. Fat ones, thin ones, and even redheads.
You are funny, Anne. Although we really don't know what fairies look like. In our play, they look like us. And we want our play to be a success.
And that's why we'll all do our best. I solemnly promise to do that.
I promise I'll do my best.
I promise that too.
Josie, let's all join hands and repeat our promise.
We promise to do our utmost for the concert.
Anne!
Could you hear I was in agony, Marilla? Did I convince you I was suffering from a broken heart?
Your wailing gave me a terrible shock. My heart nearly stopped. I thought you'd hurt yourself, Anne.
I'm sorry, Marilla. I was only practicing for the concert. I want my acting to be really convincing.
If you want to be really good, you'd better forget this nerve-shattering wailing.
I can't. I have to express my agony somehow, and it's very difficult to find the exact sound. If I groan too loudly, it doesn't sound heartrending enough, Marilla.
Heartrending groan? Fiddlesticks. It sounded more like a young porker being killed up here.
Did I sound like a pig? Oh, dear. I'll have to change the pitch of my groaning, then.
No, stop that at once. I can't stand it again, Anne. I realise you have to practice, but please wait until I'm outside before you start groaning.
Marilla, I've been chosen to do 2 recitations in the concert, and I have to practice for both. It's an awesome responsibility. In addition to the recitations, I'm in 2 dialogues, and we're to have a tableau depicting faith, hope, and charity. Diana, Ruby, and I will be all draped in white flowing hair. I'm to be Hope with my hands clasped, and so my eyes uplifted.
An awesome responsibility. But in this house you also have responsibilities, and I don't want you to forget that.
Of course not, Marilla. I'll do all my chores every day.
Seeing is believing.
I promise, Marilla.
And Marilla was right. Anne could think of nothing but the concert.
Horrible shriek!
Oh!
Marilla's words fell on deaf ears. Anne was totally preoccupied. The Barry household suffered a similar fate. All the pupils of Avonlea School were in a fever of excitement. The girls rehearsed the Fairy Queen with immeasurable enthusiasm. Under Miss Stacy's able direction, the children became eager young actors.
Are you making a habit of coming home late, Anne?
I'm sorry, Marilla. We had a rehearsal after school.
If things go on like this, I shall have to speak to your Miss Stacy.
Why, Marilla?
Because she's just filling your head with stuff and nonsense and taking up time that ought to be spent on your lessons. I don't approve of children getting up concerts and racing about to rehearsals. It makes them vain and forward and fond of gadding.
But think of the patriotic purpose of our concert. We're going to get the Avonlea School a flag with the money we make.
Oh, fiddlesticks. There's precious little patriotism in the thoughts of any Avonlea pupil. All you want is a good time.
Well, is there something wrong with combining fun and patriotism, Marilla?
Anne, all I'm asking is that you do your chores and behave yourself when you're at home. I'll be heartily glad when all this fuss is over and you're able to settle down. You're simply good for nothing just now, with your head stuffed full of dialogues and groans and tableaus. And as for your tongue, it's a marvel it's not quite worn out. I don't want to stop you from attending rehearsals, but you must take care to be home before dark.
Do you have something on your mind, Anne?
Yes, I'm wondering whether a school concert isn't as much a part of education as reading and writing is.
Well now, Anne, I reckon there's no doubt about it. Of course it is.
Then we agree. And you'll understand why this concert is so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
We had a rehearsal after school and I said my recitation. It went very well. I'm sorry you weren't there to hear me. Ruby Gillis paid me such a compliment coming home. She congratulated me and said that my words had just made her blood run cold and that nobody else could play a tragic heroine as well as I can. That's what Ruby said, and I feel so proud.
I'm sure you do. Would you recite your poem for me one of these days? I would really like to hear it.
Would you, Matthew? I will, but you must promise me you'll come to our concert.
Do you think I should? Well, now, I reckon it's going to be a pretty good concert. And I expect you'll do your part well. I just couldn't stay away from such an important occasion.
Thank you, Matthew, thank you. Oh, I can just see the audience hanging breathlessly on my words. And their applause will sound like waves pounding the shore. This concert is going to be the highlight of my life.
Marilla's lecture was forgotten. Matthew's sympathetic words had restored Anne's confidence. She continued going to rehearsals, and although Marilla still didn't approve of the concert, she didn't interfere. Matthew said very little. Christmas was only a fortnight off, and he had a secret. But more about that next time.
走っても終わらない花の波、水には遠く燃える雲はもっと遠く